Hi, my name is Yasmina and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I wanted to challenge myself to read the highest rated books on my physical TBR. So these are the highest rated books on Goodreads that I already own. And so I went through this list on Goodreads and sorted by most highly rated, and I came up with 3 books that I want to challenge myself to read and then make a video about. And so at the time of filming this video, the highest rated book on my physical TBR is Oathbringer by Brandon Sanderson, coming in at 4.61 average rating. Now that is quite impressive, also considering the number of ratings on Goodreads, but to be fair, I am not surprised. It is Brandon Sanderson. This is the 3rd book in the Stormlight Archive, the epic fantasy series Stormlight Archive, and it is one of my favorite series of all time, and as you can see, I'm already in the middle of, well, I'm about 300 pages into this book, and so I thought it was the perfect time to make the intro for this video and then share my thoughts along the way as I finish this beast. The 2nd highest rated book on my physical TBR is The Nightingale by Kristin Hannah. This comes in at 4.58 average rating on Goodreads, which is also ridiculously high, again considering the overwhelming number of ratings. So as far as I can tell, this is a World War II story set in the French countryside about 2 sisters. This is a literary fiction novel, which is something that I do read every once in a while, and I tend to really enjoy when I do read it, but it is not my normal genre. And so I'm very excited about this because it is insanely highly rated, so I'm really expecting this to be amazing. And so the 3rd book that I'm going to read for this video, the 3rd most highly rated book on my TBR, is actually Queen of Shadows by Sarah J Maas. So this is the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series, and I have read the first 3, of course. And this book comes in at 4.56 average rating on Goodreads, which again is quite high, but again, I'm not too surprised considering the popularity of this series. This is a YA fantasy series about an assassin. I'm sure you have heard of this series. I'm not the biggest fan. I enjoyed the 1st book, but then I didn't really enjoy the 3rd book so much, which is why I haven't yet picked this book up. But since it is so highly rated, I am willing to give this series another go and see if this 4th book see if I like it, pretty much. So these are the top 3 highest rated books on my physical TBR. I am very excited to read these books and to see if they really are as good as people say they are. So yes, let's move on to the reading vlog of reading these 3 books. So, like I said, I already started reading Oathbringer and I'm in 380 pages in to this brick, and as expected, I love it. It is taking me a long time, but I'm really enjoying it. I love this. I love Shallan. Shallan is my favorite viewpoint to read from, especially the scenes between Shallan and Adolin and Pattern. No spoilers, but if you know what I'm talking about, those are gold. They are just so much fun. They are just perfection. I love it. It's great. I am 820 pages in, and to be honest, this is taking a really long time. I think I just haven't read a really fat book like this in a really long time, so it's taking me a lot longer. And I don't know, maybe it's also a little bit slower than I would like. Finally, I feel like more things are happening. This is usual with Brandon Sanderson. He always has a lot more build up towards the end and everything happens all at once. But I did find myself struggling a little bit in the sort of middle part. Shallan, I think, is still my favorite POV to read from. I think she's the most interesting one in this book, at least. I feel like Kaladin's chapters aren't as good as they used to be, and then I struggle with Dalinar because I don't like him as a character. I do think his flashbacks are interesting because we're finding out a lot about his past. I just don't particularly like him as a character, and so I'm a little bit conflicted. So in usual Sanderson fashion, this book totally took off in the 3rd act. It's like I'm at around 900 pages and now we're getting to the really good stuff. Always does this. He always ramps up so much towards the end. But I do feel like compared to the first 2 books in the series, the middle was a lot slower than Way of Kings or Words of Radiance. So yeah, only 400 more pages to go. Why is this so long? It is done. I finished it. I finally conquered this beast. I just realized this is by far the longest book I own, the longest book on my shelves. The only thing that's close is A Dance of Dragons by Martin, and the other two books in the Stormlight Archive are also around the 1,100 mark. But this is the longest, and it took me a long time to finish, but I did it. Gosh, okay, I need to get my thoughts in order, and I'll make a separate book review of this because there's a lot to talk about. Stormlight Archive in general is just incredible. It's such an epic feat, and I'm just in awe of everything that Sanderson created with this world and these characters, and it was just great. My favorite character is still Shallan, especially in this book. Oh my gosh, her character development is insane. I loved it. It was so good. And everything with Dalinar was also quite interesting, although sometimes it was a little bit repetitive and kind of boring, but everything with his flashbacks I really did enjoy in the end. Like, the journey was worth it. So yeah, I mean, I can definitely see why this is one of the highest rated books on my TBR. In general, the Stormlight Archive series is one of the most highly rated fantasy series out there, and so I get it. And I would tend to agree. I would definitely agree. It is definitely a really good book, although maybe not as good as the first two in the series, but still really good. So, on to the next one.
One eternity later.
Okay, so the next highest rated book that I'm going to read in this video is The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna. I've already started. I'm at page 36. This is, like I said in the intro, a World War II story, and we follow two sisters. And I just started it, so I don't have many thoughts as of now. I just will expect sad things to happen. I have a feeling this will be a very sad book. A sad book. World War II stories tend to be sad. I will update you as I go along and see how I like it. But again, I looked at the Goodreads page, and my god, this has so many ratings and so many really high ratings. So I am very intrigued to see why so many people like this book so much, and if I will agree with them or disagree. Okay, a little update. I'm at page 130, and I already really like this. It is so incredibly well written. It is so vivid. I'm really rooting for these characters already, and I think I'm feeling like all of the emotions that the author is at least trying, to come across with her writing. She creates a very intense atmosphere, and I'm really enjoying this. I'm actually flying through it a lot quicker than I thought I would. So now that I'm a little more into the story, I can tell you a little bit more about what it's about. It's still about these two sisters who are, trying to survive World War II and trying to sort of find their own place and their own worth in society and, within themselves. One of the sisters' husband is of course off to war, and then the other sister, she's younger, she is only 17. She's being very rebellious and trying to find ways to fight back. So yeah, that's all I can really say without spoiling anything, but it's really good. I'm really enjoying this. If it continues on like this, I'm pretty confident I will be giving this a very high rating. So yes. So I finished this. Words. I read this quite quickly, actually. It's quite a dense book. There's a lot of description in this, and it's 450 pages, and I read it quickly. For me, I read it in about a week. That's quick for me. I did not want to stop reading this. Like, as soon as I put this down, I wanted to pick it back up again. Like, that is how much I enjoyed this book. It was harrowing, beautiful at times, generally devastating. Like, it was devastating. I was very close to crying. I'm not the type of person who ever cries while reading. Like, something can make me sad, but like, I don't get to the point of actually crying. Like, that doesn't happen unless an animal dies. Maybe that's my trigger. And yes, as I predicted, obviously this book is incredibly sad, but it was also incredibly moving and just generally beautiful. There were a couple of things that were a little bit strange, as in they weren't explained like at all. They just happened, and it kind of left me a little bit like, huh? You know, as sad as the story was, I feel like the way it was told, I really felt for these characters, and I was there with them throughout everything. And I love this. I gave this 5 stars. Yes, this is like genuinely one of the most moving books I've ever read. It was genuinely beautiful, and I obviously now I get why so many people really love this book. Interestingly though, I looked up a little more into Kristin Hannah, and this was her first ever historical fiction. So she's actually not a historical fiction writer, because like in the beginning of this book there's a list of all the novels that she's written, and there's like 30. Like I don't even like there's a lot like this. There's a lot of books that she's written. Like, I didn't know that she was such a prolific author. But this was her first historical fiction novel, and I'm not entirely sure if she's written any since. She probably did, because how successful this was, so I would assume that she did. But I will definitely look more into another one of her historical fiction novels if she has one, because I just really like this. Like, I really like this. I was honestly putting off reading this. I knew I had to, like, for this video, but I was putting off picking it up because I didn't think it would be something that I would enjoy reading. I would highly recommend it if you've never read a historical fiction novel before and you're interested in the genre. I think this is accessible enough to anyone, and I just think you'll really root for these 2 sisters and be devastated along with everyone else at what happens to them. So yes. So one more book to go, and so far in this video, I mean, it's been going really well, so I am very curious and a little bit apprehensive of if I'm going to also love the final book that I'm going to read for this video. So finally, the last book that I'm gonna read for this video, that I'm actually currently reading, I already started, is Queen of Shadows. This is the 4th book in the Throne of Glass YA fantasy series. And it's been so long since I read the last book, the 3rd book in this series, that before I picked this up, I'm about 100 and so pages in. Before I picked this up, I looked online for like a summary of the first 3 books, because I could not remember, except for like the premise of the story and the main character. I just couldn't remember anything about the series. This is a problem when you start really long series and then you kind of pause somewhere in between. It's really hard to get back into, you know, the world and to remember why it's important that these things are happening. And so even though I'm 100 pages in and I have read a summary, I'm still finding it a bit difficult to get into the story, to care, I suppose, about what's happening. And since this is quite a long book, it's almost 700 pages, I'm hoping that will change as we go through the book. I actually really like the writing style of this. It's very easy and quick to get through. It's very snappy, and some of the chapters are quite short, so it feels a lot easier to read, even though it's quite a chunker. So I'm hoping that I'll get into it and really enjoy it and see why it is so highly rated. Throne of Glass. It's been quite a few years since we've last seen each other, but it is one of the most popular series, at least YA series out there. Hoping to get back into this with this book, and then I have 3 more if I feel like continuing. But I think I will decide based off of this book if there's any point in me continuing on and finishing the series, or if I should just stop for good. So I'm 300 pages in and I'm still not feeling it. I'm actually trying to read other books as well, because I feel like this will put me in a reading slump if I only read this. So I'm trying to read other shorter books alongside, but I'm just not connecting with these characters, because I guess it's been so long, and you know, the context of this book isn't enough to get me back into the story. I'm still gonna try to push through, but it's a long book and I'm not even halfway through. And I'm not feeling it. Hello from the Christmas tree. So I finished The Beast, Queen of Shadows by Miss Sarah J. Maas. So it definitely picked up towards the end. I feel like it was very snappy, lots of things happened. But overall, I still feel like I didn't really connect to the characters or the story much. And I do think a big reason for that is waiting so long between reading, book 3 and 4 and just generally forgetting and having this general disconnect of the characters in the story. There were all these dudes that started showing up that had some connection to the main character, and I just was very confused who was who and which one of them was supposed to be the main love interest. I really enjoy the banter between the characters, but because I don't really have any attachment to any of the characters, it doesn't hit as I think is intended for it to hit. Definitely not a 5-star read from me. And I'm debating whether I should continue with this series or not. And if I do decide to continue, I feel like I need to do it as soon as possible. The problem is there's 3 more books and they are all much bigger than this. So if you've read this series, please let me know if it's worth pushing through and finishing the Throne of Glass series, because at this point, I feel very meh about it. Like, it just doesn't really catch my interest to the point where I want to read 3 more doorstoppers of characters that I don't really care much about. And the thing with the main character, I feel like she is written as this badass assassin that just goes on killing sprees, and everyone is just in awe of her murderous abilities. But the way she's written, you never actually see much of the battles. You just get a little bit of her point of view of, now I'm gonna go murder all these bastards. And then you see one of the other characters' point of view. Whoa, she is murdering all these guys, and oh my god, they're already dead. Wow, she's amazing. I feel like there's a lot of that from the other characters. A lot of, wow, she's amazing. But I don't really feel that, to be honest. I don't really feel that about her. I don't know, maybe I've just outgrown this series. And just because I've already invested 4 books into the series, I feel like I should finish it. But I don't know if I want to put myself through it when it's just a 3-star, when it's just kind of meh, and I don't particularly care about what happens and which of the dudes the main character will end up with, because there's a lot of dudes. So yeah, this gets a 3-star meh rating from me. So, it's been a year. It has literally been a year since I started reading the first book in this video. These themed reading vlogs, although they make me read more of my TBR, I'm also not great at doing them quickly. So it's been a year. So let's quickly recap. We had Oathbringer, which I gave 5 stars to, The Nightingale, which I also gave 5 stars to, and then Queen of Shadows, which I gave 3 stars to. So I would say that 2 out of 3 books to give 5 stars to is quite good. I could have given all of these 3 stars, I could have just been meh about all 3 of them. But 2 of them are one of the top books that I read in 2021, and only one of them was meh. So honestly, I think this was very successful, and because of that, I'm thinking of doing another one of these. So now looking at the next 3 books that are the highest rated on my TBR and read those as well. Let me know if you've read any of these 3 books, and otherwise let me know what is the highest rated book on your Goodreads TBR that you're thinking of picking up. So click here for my top books of 2021 video if you haven't seen it already, and click here for another themed reading vlog. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time with a new video. Bye!